Hello and welcome to this Finance Malta podcast. We're here to talk today about Malta as an international banking sector, which is a particularly relevant theme for these troubled times. Malta has actually fared a lot better when it comes to banking through this economic crisis. And we've got here with us to discuss this, to discuss Malta's unique selling points and really the sector in general. We have with us James Bonello, who's the Secretary General of the Malta Bankers Association, Joaquim Silva Pinto, who is the CEO of Banif Bank, Charles Borg, the CEO of Bank of Valletta, and Mark Watkinson, the CEO of HSBC Bank Malta. Perhaps we'll start with you, because they're going to tell me nice stuff about why their banks did so well. You tell me about the banking sector in Malta. Why did it fare so well through the economic crisis?
I think it's mainly due to the prudent banking model, which most banks in Malta have adopted.
You mean boring?
Boring, but safe. And you can see that banks always had very high capital ratios, so strong capital buffers. They always maintained very high liquidity levels. Their funding is mainly sourced from retail deposits, so the recourse to the interbank market is absolutely minimal, so they can cover a loan book 1.5 times over by deposits. And there were prudent banking norms in lending, and the investments, no kinky stuff or toxic assets, and
yes.
Well diversified.
They've got the last laugh, haven't they now?
Portfolios.
Yes.
So I think that worked very well, and we had no bank failures or systemic shocks during the crisis.
In fact, we actually ranked quite well when it came to the World Economic Forum.
Yes, we were ranked 12th out of 142 countries in the latest Global Competitiveness report for 2011-2012, which is a very good position, I think.
Yes, that's actually very reassuring for the sector of banking. But perhaps if I could ask, it's not enough for the banking sector to be doing well and to have this very good risk management approach. It depends on the country too. How do you see the banking sector within the context of the economic framework? Mark, you're a recent immigrant to Malta.
A recent arrival.
Fairly
yes,
recent arrival. How do you see the banking sector operating within the economic context of Malta?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, as you said, I've been here sort of 8 or 9 months, but I've been very impressed with what I've seen. I would agree with James that what I see is a robust legislative and regulatory framework. I see the banks and the banking community not doing wild and crazy things. And the most important thing is I see the banks have, throughout the crisis, have been open for business, willing to lend into the community. And that really has helped Malta bridge this difficult time. These times are not over, but it really has helped Malta bridge.
I can imagine. One of the things which has changed obviously over the last decade or so has been Malta's accession of the EU. You come from a Portuguese sector, Joaquim. How do you see Malta's accession influencing Banif's decision to come here?
It was clearly one of the reasons why the decision was made on the first hand. Entering the EU for Malta was clearing, passporting to the credibility and to the safety of investors in this country. And of course, we found not only, as already said, a very sound and a very secure regulation process, which is improving every and each day, but also a global banking behavior, which is clearly unique in terms of the Southern Europe. So for us, the decision was taken based in most of these issues, and I have to say you that we have no regret on it.
Do you see that Malta is not only a link to the EU, but also perhaps to North Africa? Is that an important factor?
Yes, you are quite right on that. We can see clearly Malta bridging the business in and out Europe. So Malta has a very particular relation with the North of Africa, not only, with countries through which Europe needs to start and restart new acquaintance and new opportunities of business. But it's also clearly the door for these countries to come into Europe and to have their business opportunities within the European market. So Malta strategically is very important to Europe. So I think that for Malta it was very good to join Europe, but for Europe itself it was excellent to have Malta as an important partner on this banking business.
Charles, you've been in this industry in Malta for decades, so perhaps the perspective I'd like to get out of you is more about the way that Malta has developed. We've already spoken about the importance of regulation, but I'd also like to understand a bit about legislation as well. What has Malta done which is proactive? All the jurisdictions are harping on about the same unique selling points, taxation, English speaking, human capital, etc. Which factors do you think are the most important?
First of all, I would like to concur with my colleagues in the sense that as an international financial jurisdiction, the main selling points have always been that Malta is very accessible in terms of its legislation and the quickness that we turn these regulations into legislation. And I think that is one of the key selling points that we have. Malta is open for business in the sense that we would like to portray an image that if you come to Malta, we're open for business and we want to adapt and make our legislation adaptable. And obviously that is a very, very key ingredient to our success. I concur as well with what Mark said and that we have, and what James said, that we are very prudent in the way we do banking business. And we have very strong capital and liquidity ratios, and we do serve our clients in the best interest. And in all this crisis, the major ingredient was basically that we kept our liquidity available. So liquidity remained available to the economy. The economy has continued to do well. And therefore, the basic reason, the employment has been sustained, and therefore that means that the economy continues to do well. So that is one key ingredient. Obviously, there are others, namely that government financing has been stable. All government funding is local, is Maltese, and therefore there's no international pressures on the governments to establish rates which are beyond certain limits. And the government has also been very, very prudent in the sense that we have, or rather the government has helped industries when and where it was needed. So I would say that I've seen the Maltese financial sector develop from what it used to be a number of years ago into a fully fledged international financial center. Open for business, quick into changing the regulation to the needs of the industry. And I think if you were to ask me, Malta ticks all the boxes. Human capital, connectivity, good IT framework, and a stable infrastructure and financial sector. So I think if you have stability and you have connectivity and you have the good capital, and able legislative framework, I think you have the right ingredients for success.